I'm going to take you on a walkthrough of the thing that I'm super embarrassed and ashamed of. It's my junkyard. And it's really a physical manifestation of what my soul has been looking like for a long time. I'm a third generation hoarder that's ready to be set free. And this is my journey on being healed from it. Now, I'm going to preface it by saying I've always been a man of many words. And I'm understanding why. I could never get to the point. I would talk and talk and talk and talk. I could never get to the point. And I'm starting to feel that it's because I was always subconsciously making sure that I never made a statement that implicated myself as part of my narcissistic defense from my mother abandoning her. She didn't abandon us entirely. She was not capable of being the mother we needed. But she later from my perspective, it looked like she became the mother that her stepkids needed. So my first cheater was basically my mom. My mom cheated on us with my step siblings, and I lived a life of jealousy of that and of self-identity crisis. Okay, self-identity crisis. When she said I left because of you to my face at 5 years old, I lost my identity, and I had to start finding an external supply of my identity because my internal one was gone. But I forgive her. I love her. I love my mother. She went through much worse wounding than I did that she has never actually addressed. She's never spoken a word of it to me. The things I know about her, she's never said. And I would like it if you would pray for my mother to be freed, to be set free, to be healed. Now, my rambling is probably a case of painting stories for consumption that will show me in a positive light, that will always manage to blame shift and point like, I collected all this because my wife did this, because my wife did that, because I expected this, because I expected that. That's who I am. The reality is, I did this to me, but not just me. I did this to her too. Because I couldn't cope with the reality of the life that I was living. Let's go for a walk, actually. Because I couldn't cope with the reality of the life that I was living, I invented a future life that I was going to be the king of, that I was going to be thrilled with, that was going to make perfect sense, that no one could understand until they saw it all unfolded. And then they would all say, wow, great job. You saw what no one else ever saw. That's amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. Okay, this is a consequence of a loss of identity, a low self-esteem, low self-worth, all these things. But what did I end up doing? I ended up being married to the fantasy and divorced from my spouse. I forced her to live in my fantasy that I was enamored with, that she despised, that I despise too now, because I really can see what the devil did to me. I can see what my sins and my self-delusions allowed to occur. Allowed me to busy myself with distractions so that I wouldn't be having to face the consequences of how I felt in my relationships. I basically felt my mother hated me and my wife hated me. And I heard those two things out of their mouths. But that was the devil. That was the devil through their sins and the sins of those who raised them and had access to them through their grandparents' sins, generational curses. Your sins don't just stay with you, people. My mother said, you're not my kid, several times. My wife said, I fucking hate you, several times. And this is how I coped with it. Because I believed every word that they said. Well, if they hate me, why should I like me? They're right. I thought highly of them. I mean, mom's a hero, right? If mom says, you're not my kid, then, well, why should you like you? If your wife that you love says, I hate you, why should you like you? This is how I survived. This is how I didn't shoot myself, because I had 2 children and they needed me. This is how I coped. Instead of going home with money, I went to the junkyard and I spent that money. I made sure that the people that were hurting me were not going to get that money. I deprived them because I was wounded. And the only healing to that wound, there's no I'm sorry that's going to cut it. I've gotten them. My mother and my ex-wife have apologized. Truthfully, they mean it. Sincerely, they mean it. That doesn't restore what those words took from me, which was my self-image and self-worth, the only thing that restores that is me forgiving them, number one. And number two, me taking full ownership of what I did. No one did this to me. I did this to myself. There is a psychological, logical reaction, explanation of why I did this and why my father did it and why both my grandparents did it. But I didn't collect my dad's junk pile, my grandfather's junk pile, or my grandmother's junk pile. They did. I collected this one. I spent my life being upset at how other people's, those three people I just mentioned, I spent my life upset at how their junk pile displaced me from being able to be, comfortably visiting in their lives. But what did I do? I replicated it. I did the exact same thing. I made a yard that I trapped my wife and kids living in that no woman would want to have her friends come over to, that no child would want their friends to come over to. I mean, actually, boys kind of like it because boys like going through a junkyard. Boys like riding go-karts and dirt bikes around. We've got 5 acres of, four more acres of woods back there with some trails. So boys do kind of like it. But my wife and my daughter, I don't blame them one bit for hating this. This is a shame and an embarrassment. And I'm exposing it because this is what's going to set me free from it. I am sick and tired of living this way. I'm sick and tired of saying, woe is me. I can't change it. I'm trapped. I'm stuck. If I manage to collect it all, I can manage to get rid of it all, can't I? The fantasy that somehow it's going to all be built into some magical artwork is the thing that I clung to, that was going to be the redeeming quality. Clinging to all this shit and making it into something beautiful and functional and profitable was going to be the artwork that made everybody who scorned me for it, either verbally or in their head, that was going to make them all see they were wrong and I was right. That's the stubborn pride. I'm not proud anymore. I am ashamed. I am completely ashamed, and my shame is what's setting me free. Do you know why? Because Jesus does not wipe out your pride. He wipes out your shame. Christ's sacrifice on the cross, it cancels your shame. It doesn't cancel your pride. You have to throw away your own pride. You have to humble yourself. This is very humbling for me because I am squirming at the thought of sharing this with the public. This is me throwing away my pride and accepting my shame so that Christ can take it and blow it away. Just blow it out of the palm of his hand like that. Dust in the wind. Dust in the wind. I want to be set free from this.